actually delaying the proceedings in the second test between India and Bangladesh at the Green Park Stadium, Kanpur, but it's the outfield that has actually taken the beating because of persistent drizzle and rain over the first 2 days of the test match. And that's why, there has been another inspection that has been that's going to be there now, and it's going to be there at 2 p.m. IST, which effectively means that that another session of play has been lost, and there has been no action at all after the last ball of the 34th over was bowled on day one.
I don't know how to look at this. Just because we haven't had any game time for more than a day and a half now. Effectively, 2 sessions today, the entire day of yesterday, and another session and a half on the first day. So maybe just so 2 days of play being lost effectively. But now it does look like there is some sort of hope that we can see some game time today. Have we reached that point that we're craving for action now, and that any form of action is welcome action now?
Yeah,
Or are we still sad about the fact that now so much time has been lost, and the speculation doing the rounds that this match is now headed for a draw?
yeah, obviously, any fan would actually think that this match is headed towards a draw. But then you really know this is Test cricket. Anything can happen within a special session, within a few overs also. But then the way obviously things are going, they don't really look promising, and it hasn't really rained since morning. The only damage that was done, that was and it was done primarily because there was a lot of overnight rain. Because come the morning, most of the covers were actually being removed by the groundsman, but then the main cover, which was the score on the square region, it wasn't really covered. That's the area that took a lot of beating, specifically the slip region, the mid-on, mid-off region, and obviously where the bowlers usually take their mark, the fast bowlers. I think this is where the umpires are really concerned about. There's still a lot of wet and damp patches, and that's why they are very unsure whether they would want to resume play as soon as possible or not. Because unless the sun is going to come out in Kanpur, I think it's not going to help anything. Because if the conditions stay overcast for the next 2 years also, I'm pretty much sure that we may not have any play today also.
Yeah, let's tell you what we saw on the screen at the moment. That 12 o'clock inspection that took place, the two umpires were out in the middle, and they were trying to inspect various areas of the ground. And there's a couple of observations that we could make. The first, of course, being that certain parts of the ground, rather certain big parts of the ground were still largely damp. You could see the umpires trying to just poke their feet into the ground and check how those areas are holding up, and you could see their feet getting sucked into the ground a bit. That gave the impression that the outfield is still damp, it's still spongy many areas, and that always tells you that it will take time. And is there something that the ground staff can really do about it? Maybe not. As Siddharth was pointing out, what you need at the moment is the sun to come out.
Yeah.
The one way to ensure that the outfield gets dried up is to get the sun out. The super soppers were not seen plying at the moment. What we saw yesterday was super soppers plying on the top of the covers because puddles of water had formed. Today we did not see that. The covers are of limited use of the super soppers today. Now though, because of the moisture that has been absorbed by the surface, and it doesn't have the best drainage facilities, the Green Park Stadium, let's be honest about that. So at large the outfield remains very damp. The footmarks, or rather the areas that were being checked with the foot trying to be poked into the ground, you could sense that since the feet were still getting dragged into the ground, were getting pulled into the ground, you could sense that this outfield is still very wet, and
Yes.
as a result it's going to take time for that to dry up. How does that happen? It happens only when the sun when the sun is out in all its glory, and that's perhaps what is the need of the hour right now.
Absolutely, and I think what this really also goes on to show that it's not really a great spectacle for the fans also who had come from very far to make sure that they witness some kind of a contest between both the sides. That despite the fact that Bangladesh couldn't really produce much of a challenge in the first test after having a good opening day with the ball, but then Bangladesh, we all know they are a formidable unit, could have given India a run for their money. But then overall if we talk about the Green Park Stadium, well, obviously it was in the controversy ahead of the start of the test match also, and obviously things aren't really helping the relevant stakeholders of the stadium who obviously take care of it. So that's where I think there are going to be a lot of questions asked as to why there has been as to why the ground wasn't really ready for the play to resume, despite the fact that it hadn't really rained since morning on day 3. So that's the latest update we have for you in case you have just joined us. Well, there is another delay, and the next inspection is going to take place at 2 p.m. IST. There was the first inspection for today was scheduled at 10 a.m. The ground obviously wasn't ready. Then it got postponed to 12 noon. Then also umpires had a look. They strode out on the field and they realized that conditions are still wet and damp, and same has been the case now. So which means that the next inspection, which is going to held at 2 p.m. IST, it confirms that effectively you have lost 2 sessions today.
Now, optimistically,
Yeah.
if things are to go forward in a way that we can look at some amount of game time. So inspection happens at 2. Let's say there's enough that happens because I just read the fact that there was some sawdust also that was being sprinkled to ensure that there's some sort of dryness and that sawdust can help just accelerate the whole process up quickly.
Yeah.
Now all of those things happening on the ground, but if optimistically we are to expect that they get the go ahead to, let's say, continue or start from 2:33 or 3 o'clock. You can at best hope for a prolonged session, an extended session, but nothing goes beyond 6 o'clock is
Yeah.
what we know as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So at most you can hope for an extended third session, but that doesn't give you much. And that is us being extremely hopeful that
Yes.
2:30 it firstly begins, which is the scheduled time also. However, if it doesn't happen that way, then more and more does this test match head towards a draw.
Absolutely, and I think the keyword to be focused here is extremely hopeful, because unless the sun is going to come out, it's not really going to help the condition at the Green Park Stadium. And if it remains the same until 2 p.m. IST, then I'm afraid we'll have an update that's been there from the past 2 days also. So let's just hope that the weather improves, sun comes out, there are some clear skies, because according to the weather report also it was expected to clear out post the afternoon session. So around 2, 3 and 4 p.m. there are going to be intermittent clouds. It's going to be partly sunny, and even the chances of precipitation go down significantly to about 20%. So let's just hope that we get some play, and stay tuned to Sports Today, as we'll keep you posted about all the latest updates from the sporting world, and obviously for the India versus Bangladesh Kanpur Test. Until then, on behalf of Harshit, it's Siddharth saying goodbye.